Hello, Michael Cirino here from House of Attention, and another great conversation about the future of hospitality with my friend Konstantinos, who's based in Riyadh and works for TGP International, a hospitality firm that imagines the future, helps you realize how F&B and master planning can connect your goals from today into that future launch date. We started connecting when we were in Riyadh together around the Future of Hospitality conference and have since really discovered that there's a lot around our shared passions, but also around the way that we approach the work. And it's a real exciting time in Saudi Arabia. And so, Konstantinos, I'd love it if you could tell us more about you and the organization that you work with and kind of your relationship to hospitality.
First of all, I would like to thank you very much for having me. I'm really thankful. So I worked for TGP International, as you said, as the Business Development Director. TGP International is a F&B and hospitality consulting agency, and we provide services including advisory. When I'm talking about advisory, is branding, is concept development, is F&B strategy, F&B master planning, or RD master planning. RD stands for retail, dining and entertainment. We have our interior design team, our graphic design team. Recently we added the kitchen design as well, and of course we do marketing. Apart from this, where the things start is the operational pillar, where we do pre and post-opening operations. And we represent across the globe as well quite a few brands. And that's the four pillars that shape TGP as an organization around F&B.
When you say that we represent brands around the world, are they hospitality brands, hotels, restaurants?
Restaurant brands. So across the globe, for specific territories, we represent brands that we have gained the right to from the owners of the restaurants to represent them in specific territories.
Now, again, when we say represent, are you talking about operating their businesses or looking for them to be licensed into other businesses that people want?
Exactly, the second.
Because operations is one of the things that I've been talking about. People believe that operations are easy in major cities like New York and London. I believe that operations and staffing are difficult everywhere in the world, unanimously across the board, and that idea of having access to high quality talent and the ability to, and high quality vendors is something that is less accessible than most people believe, right? So as somebody who's operated in the UK and Greece and now in Saudi Arabia, how do you feel about that connection between ideation and master planning and how that project is actually going to be run on a daily basis so that it's successful?
In the early stages, you need to take care of the operations part because, as you said, to give an example, maybe you want to bring a restaurant, for instance, in Saudi Arabia, but the issue would be there that the restaurant needs to be supported by the supply chain, which is part of the operations. You do on the paper, everything looks nice and beautiful and the idea maybe looks great, but some things that most of the people don't take into consideration, maybe they will create an issue later on, like this that I just brought up as an example. So you need to look into many different areas before you start the conversations of bringing a concept or investing into a concept. Either this is going to be creation of it from scratch or by getting the license from another owner. I believe that's what differentiates TGP, is that when we create something, for example, the F&B strategy in the early stages, we take into consideration small things like this.
The synthesis of what is on the paper and what ends up in real life is really where the magic happens, and TGP is fantastic at making sure that bridge connects between that ideation and where it goes. Now, we are hospitality people. I would love to learn a little bit more about where you came from and how you got to this place in Riyadh. So can you just tell us a little bit about your personal history and like what your relationship with hospitality and design is? Because I think a lot of our talent is both based on the why that we're here and the kind of what that we have done in the past.
Thank you very much for the question. So I have been in hospitality for over 20 years now. Often I joke, I didn't choose hospitality and hospitality chose me.
That's how it goes.
And at around 15 years old, I started as an assistant waiter in my family's fish tavern. We call them ouzeri in Greek. Basically carrying plates, clearing tables, doing all the jobs that nobody notices. From there, I worked my way through almost every front of house role you can imagine. So I became a waiter then, later a barista, then a bartender in a beach club, eventually progressing into management as an assistant general manager. And at the same time, I was studying. So my days were split between university and hospitality. While I'm looking back, I realized that while university taught me the theory, hospitality taught me the people, meaning you learn in hospitality how to read emotions, how to solve problems in seconds sometimes, that you don't have a lot of time to react, stay calm under pressure, and understand that every guest has a different expectation. So those lessons have stayed with me far longer than most of the people can imagine when they first meet me. And today, I'm the business development director for TGP International here in Saudi Arabia, where I've been living for the past 4 years. And my role isn't anymore to serve guests directly, but about serving the client, because every client comes to TGP, to us, with an ambition, and my job is to understand what success looks like for them and connect them with the right capabilities within TGP to help them bring this vision to life.
Being that we are people who know all about the trends, both in the cities that we work in, New York, Riyadh, and around the world, whether it's a high-end audio lounge in New York, a museum in London, a hotel in Riyadh, what is one new physical space that's blown your mind? And I mean physical space, I mean like a room, a mountain resort, something where you were in that physical location and you were like, this is a place, not necessarily hospitality, not the service, but the actual physical architecture, the design, the interiors, all that stuff.
One place that genuinely stayed with me is called Samhania, and it's part of the greater Diriyah development. I visited many beautiful hotels and restaurants around the world, but this experience was different because it wasn't trying, when you go to restaurants, the restaurants or the hotels are trying to impress you. This place, it was trying to connect me with the culture. And what struck me was how authentic everything felt. So you have families and young people sharing the same public spaces. Basically, it's one small road. You see traditional performances taking place in the street and local vendors selling food and desserts. Some of them, they have prepared them in their own homes using recipes passed down through generations. And it wasn't something that it felt staged, So then you walk into these beautifully restored traditional Nasdi houses that have been transformed into small museums, and you can go to one room which tells the story of traditional clothing, another room that showcases the tools that people used to build their homes or cultivate the land, and you begin to understand how people lived in the past in Riyadh, how people worked in the past and how they built their communities. As someone who has now lived in Saudi Arabia for a little bit more than 4 years, that experience meant a lot to me because that was the first time that I didn't feel like I was simply visiting a destination. I felt like I was stepping into Saudi Arabia's story, and that's a very, very different feeling. So I think that's where hospitality is heading, and the most memorable places, I would say, that are the places that create genuine emotional connection with where you are at this moment. And for me, Samhania was memorable.
I 100% agree. So many times in the development of these new markets, and even in developments in London and New York, as we were saying, in Tokyo, the goal is to build a tower where the windows are closed and the air conditioning stays in. And a lot of the best experiences are when you open the windows and the breeze can come from the outside world in, if you know what I mean. Even though it's very hot in Riyadh, that idea of exchanging of culture, having the door and the room in the hotel be a foundational place for you to go out and explore, that experience you just described is something that we strive for every time we travel to the region. And to hear that you were able to find it in Diriyah and you were able to see it in such a clean way really speaks to the power of the development that they're doing there. Because 2 years ago, that kind of project wasn't available. You'd have to be going into like South Riyadh, into where people lived. You would need to know many people who lived there for a long period of time to have some of that, but not even all of it, if you know what I mean.
100% with you. That's exactly what I was trying to share with you.
So, all right, here's another good question, because I think this dovetails into what you were just saying. What is an industry trend that you think people are totally getting right? And what is something that you think people are getting wrong?
One trend that the industry is getting absolutely right is the growing focus on experience. So we have moved beyond simply serving food, talking about my profession and representing the organization of TGP International. So today people are looking for places that create memories. They tell stories and make them feel connected. And I think that's a very positive evolution, and it's pushing all of us to think more creatively about hospitality. Now, where I think that we still have room to improve is in how we approach the design of hospitality spaces. Why I'm saying that is because too often the conversation starts with, let's create, for example, a beautiful restaurant. And of course, I understand, I completely agree that beauty matters and first impression matter, but beauty by itself doesn't make a great hospitality experience. And what I want to say with this, so a restaurant also has to work and it has to function operationally. So the kitchen has to support the menu. The service flow has to make sense, and the staff working in this restaurant need to move very efficiently. So I have seen projects where enormous effort and investment went into creating stunning interiors and aesthetics, but they paid very little attention to how the venue would actually operate. And that's usually where and when the problem begins, because you start experiencing the service that is slowing down, the staff is becoming a little bit frustrated with this slowdown, the guests notice the delays, and eventually the beautiful design that you have can't compensate for a poor experience. And this is felt by the client in the end of the day, by the customer.
I always say that we're building for a customer, and to get that space built for the customer, we have to build for the staff. Hospitality is really driven by the staff in the kitchen, in the back of house at the hotel, in the cleaning of the rooms, in the execution of the spa, just as much as it is in the aesthetics and the design. And each one of those people are basically doing improv theater every single day, right? They have to, like you said, each guest has their own expectations, and we have to give those staff those tools to be able to respond to those expectations. And if our spaces are not built to do that, then they're already at a disadvantage. And you can say, exactly like you said, you can really feel it. Because you guys are really good at master planning, is there one project that you're particularly proud of right now that you guys have been building, or is there something that you're thinking about that actually incorporates what you're talking about, or something that you've been able to get into the books, so to speak, when it was not as clear of a KPI for the client because they were there for the aesthetics?
One project that TGP has developed, and I'm really proud of it, Mamlaka Social Dining in Riyadh, which is the kingdom's first purpose-built food hall. And for me, it represents much more than just another hospitality development. For the people who don't know, is in the Kingdom Tower in Riyadh. I would like to touch on the term of food hall, because many people, when hear this term, they think that it's simply an upgraded food court, or many of them, they don't know even the term food hall. But a true food hall is something very different. It's a carefully, I would call it, carefully curated social destination where independent brands, either they are international, either they are local, or you can see over there new entrepreneurs that they try to use the food hall as an incubator. You meet there the independent brands, you meet different cuisines, the design, culture, and community all come together and create a single experience. So guests today, they don't want just variety, they want discovery, they want authenticity, they want to spend time somewhere that feels alive, that has soul, and where every visit can be a little different from the last one.
I was going to say, I have to agree. I think the Kingdom Tower and the food hall you guys built there stands out as something that is both an exceptional landmark, but also as an exceptional social mark. People love gathering there. Every person I know in Riyadh has mentioned
and it's
it multiple
vibing.
Times. It 100%. It's a great energy. It is a great vibe.
Yeah, and it's all the people were looking for more than convenience, because you go there and you think immediately, okay, I have 21 pots to choose my dessert or lunch from. But it's more than this. They were looking for places where they could gather, explore different culinary concepts, and spend quality time all together, because it has this communal vibe and sense. So for me, that's one project that we are proud of at TGP, and personally me as well.
Yeah, it's an amazing case study, and it's an amazing execution. All right, switching on to something that maybe hasn't happened yet. What is a dream project that you and your team are thinking about, and why would you like to add your magic there?
To be honest, I don't think in terms of one specific dream project or one famous client, for example. The dream for me is to work on projects where we are trusted to help shape something that has never existed before. A place that has its own identity, its own story, and its own reason to exist. So every client that comes to us comes with a vision and an ambition, and our role isn't to impose our own ambitions and ideas. It's to understand what success looks like for them and then bring together the right strategy, the right creativity, and of course, as we discussed in the beginning, operational thinking to help and make that vision a reality. So we don't believe in taking a successful concept, for example, from one city and then simply copying it somewhere else due to the fact that every community is different and this cannot happen. So every culture is different and every project deserves to have its own personality and has its own soul. To describe a dream project, it wouldn't be defined by the budget of it or how big it is, but it would be a project where there is a genuine desire to create something meaningful and create a destination that people would remember for a long time after visiting it. So that's how I see it.
It's a great foundation to sit on. And again, the ability for us to use experience design to go beyond the plate is part of what you and I connected on. And I think personally, I believe that is where the future of hospitality is headed. But, before we go, Konstantinos, I would love to hear your thoughts. Where do you think the future of hospitality is going? And where do you think your magic really adds that value?
If I had to describe the future of hospitality in one word, it would be 100% the word authenticity. And because authentic destinations naturally create more personal and meaningful experiences. So technology will continue to evolve, but people will always remember places that felt genuine to them, that they were relevant and created with them, not for them. So when you get the authenticity part right, personalization follows very naturally because the experience feels as though it was created specifically for the people who will enjoy it. So that's what I believe, where I see the future of hospitality.
Absolutely love it, and I 100% agree. This was a great conversation. I really look forward to coming out to Riyadh again soon and being able to have dinner together and go around and see some of these places. And I know that you're opening up a restaurant in Greece as well, so maybe we can have a layover in Athens or wherever.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
With pleasure.
Thank you.
Introduce it to the rest of the family.
Yeah. Coming from a hospitality family, I can only imagine your parents, your cousins, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles have amazing anecdotes and stories about running hospitality restaurants in Greece.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me once again.
It was a real pleasure. Thank you again for being here. Ciao.